her celebrate 70 years, the Queen's Jubilee, something we have never seen before, that a monarch serving 70 years there. But this statement now follows an earlier statement, Robach, that we got from the palace, which was very rare and very concerning to a lot of people, that they said that there was a concern, or doctors had concern about her health, and that she was under medical supervision. People who have watched the palace for years and years know that that was almost an unprecedented statement for them to put out. And because of that, there was a lot of concern about her health. She had been on summer break at her palace there, her castle in Balmoral, her home in Scotland. Her kids are there. Prince Charles is there, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, Prince Andrew. They're there. Prince William did get in a short time later. We're told Prince Harry is on his way. But we also, Robach, saw the last time a public image of her was just on Tuesday.
That's right. She appointed the new prime minister there, Liz Truss. And the other reason why people were concerned, there was a scheduled meeting with top ministers. It was postponed yesterday. Doctors urging the Queen to get rest. Her health had been a growing concern since she was hospitalized in London, you may remember. Back in October, there was a bout with COVID in February. She also missed the opening of Parliament in May for only the third time. And the Queen did turn 96 in April, and we all remember the celebratory Platinum Jubilee back in June. You're looking there, by the way, at a live shot at the Union Jack, now flying at half staff, and certainly a much different crowd forming there near Buckingham Palace. Typically we see notices. Sometimes we see births, and this time we're expecting to see, of course, the announcement of the death of the Queen being placed at the gates of both Buckingham Palace and Balmoral as well, so we are monitoring those gates as well. We know that our Maggie Rulli has been on the ground there in Scotland, reporting the very latest as we first got word about the Queen's failing health. So Maggie, give us a sense of what things are like there and what you've learned.
Yeah, Amy and TJ, like you guys have said, there have been so many concerns, but I think for people hearing the news for the first time right now, we're in shock. It's almost hard to imagine a world without Queen Elizabeth. She has been such a constant for the past 70 years. Her face on coins, on stamps, just written into the fabric of British culture. But it's more than that. The entire world knows Queen Elizabeth. The vast majority know her as the British monarch, their only British monarch. So today is the end of an era. Today is the end of the second Elizabethan age. And it's hard to overstate just how important this moment is, how historical this moment is. You know, the three of us, we were all there at the Platinum Jubilee. I think that's when I really felt and saw firsthand what the Queen means to this country. The Queen is country. So to lose her today, it's losing a sense of your identity. And I think going forward, not only will there be shock, it is quickly turning to grief, not just here in the UK, but around the world.
And you mentioned there, Maggie, shock and grief. This is a 96-year-old woman whose health has been obviously talked about for some time. She started using a cane. But again, she made it through that bout of COVID earlier this year. And again, at the Jubilee, there were moments, and as we share pictures here, Balmoral, we talk about where she is now, this home that many people, as I bring in our ABC News contributor, Robert Jobson, who's at Buckingham Palace for us. Robert, I actually want to tell you, we heard you in our ear a short time ago. We heard you talking to your sources. And even though she's 96, her health has been a concern for a while, to hear you say the words that your source had told you she's gone, still in some way that's shocking and sends chills.
Well, it's a deeply sad day for the people of Britain and the people of the Commonwealth, indeed for the world, because, you know, this is an incredible lady that carried out her duty all her life, and in fact was doing her duty swearing in the new Prime Minister just a couple of days ago, which just shows you the type of incredible person that she was. But now the machinations of the Constitution of this country now get into play. There is the Prince of Wales now is the King, and Camilla is the Queen Consort. The situation is going to unfold over the next few days, where the Queen's body will be moved to Holyrood in Edinburgh, and then there'll be a service at St Giles Cathedral. And then the body will be brought down to, it's quite hard actually even saying it, but be brought down to London for the ceremony that will take place here. So we've got 10 days of mourning before the funeral, but this country and the world is in mourning now. And it's we can only reflect on what was a truly incredible reign from an amazing person who was an epitome of duty and dedication of service.
Well, Robert, we know that we will be checking in with your expertise as to what is going to happen over the next few days, but we're showing you here. This is the official royal family website, and you can see now it has gone black with Queen Elizabeth II's birth date in 1926 all the way to her death today in 2022. This website actually even crashed earlier today following the news of the Queen's health concerns. When people went on to check on the Queen and to see what the royal family was saying, an error message actually appeared on the screen reading Gateway timeout, but you can see now the website turning black in honor of Queen Elizabeth II. And of course, we know she was queen for more than half a century, 70 years to be specific. Queen Elizabeth II reigned over a rapidly changing country. The last days of what was once a vast empire, she weathered scandals, both personal and professional, that would threaten the future of the monarchy. But through it all, she ruled with a steady hand and a sincere devotion to the British people. That affection was mutual, a connection that captured so many times that why today Great Britain is a nation in mourning as we see those crowds gather at Buckingham Palace. We have ABC's Terry Moran taking a look back at her life.
She was simply, to millions around the world, the Queen. The most famous woman of her time, from her coronation in 1953 to the outpouring of affection on her Diamond Jubilee, marking 60 years on the throne. So much history, so many indelible moments. Decade after decade, from the Cold War to the computer age, what an extraordinary reign. And for all those years, through all that history, duty is what defined this remarkable woman. She was born in 1926, a little princess, Lilibet her family called her, who was never expected to become queen until her uncle, the Playboy King Edward VIII, abdicated the throne to marry an American divorcee, and her father then became King George VI. The young Elizabeth was suddenly next in line for the throne.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family.
During World War II, the princess did her duty. She was a driver and mechanic on the home front, and she fell in love in those years, a handsome prince, swashbuckling Navy Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten.
Take thee, Philip.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
They married in 1947. 5 years later, when King George died, Lilibet became Queen Elizabeth II. Her coronation was an international sensation. But the British Empire Elizabeth inherited was falling apart, all the colonies becoming independent nations. So she helped to create a new realm dubbed the British Commonwealth.
When we were young, it was very easy to take our grandmother for granted. She was just a grandmother to us. I've actually really learned to sort of understand and accept the huge deal that she is around the world.
Elizabeth traveled the world, more than 250 overseas trips, showing how the British monarch could change with the times and shape them, even as she raised 4 children, the most famous working mum in the world.
She was a young woman in a man's world, carving her own way through life and through a job that she, like any of us, don't necessarily have all the preparations you'd like. I think she's done amazingly well.
Queen Elizabeth reigned through over a dozen American presidents and just as many British prime ministers. Her first was the formidable Winston Churchill, proving a savvy stateswoman and a constant leader on the world stage. The years brought their ups and downs. The wedding of Prince Charles and Diana seemed to be a highlight, and Elizabeth watched as her daughter-in-law captivated the world in the 1980s. But when that marriage collapsed so scandalously, many Britons began to doubt the relevancy of the monarchy itself. When Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris, Elizabeth stayed in Scotland with her family. As waves of grief rolled over Britain, the Queen was seen as unsympathetic, and public anger at the royal family reached a fever pitch. And then she returned and joined her people in mourning.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
As monarch, Elizabeth maintained tradition and yet moved just enough with the times.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Who can forget her appearance alongside 007 Daniel Craig at the London Olympics? It was a rare moment of public fun from a woman who prized dignity, but her family knew a different side.
If you do ever have problems, you can share them with her and she will listen and she will try and help. But otherwise, she sort of lets you get on with your own life and carve your own path.
Perhaps one of Elizabeth's proudest moments, Prince William's marriage to Kate Middleton in 2011, a wedding that united the British people and breathed fresh life into the monarchy. 2 years later, the Queen would welcome the newest heir to the throne, Prince George, and later Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis.
She's a remarkably energetic and dedicated guiding force for her family. And I'm so glad that my children are having the chance to get to know the Queen.
In 2015, Elizabeth became the longest-serving monarch in British history, passing her great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. A long life, a long reign. She watched with pride as the next generation celebrated milestones, and she endured the disgrace of her son Andrew's public scandals that saw the Queen strip him of his military affiliations, royal patronages, and the title of His Royal Highness. Her reign, which was born out of her uncle's abdication, saw her grandson Prince Harry also step away from royal life.
The decision that I have made for my wife and I to step back is not one I made lightly. It was so many months of talks after so many years of challenges. And I know I haven't always gotten it right, but as far as this goes, there really was no other option.
One biographer called her Elizabeth the Steadfast, her strength guiding her people through the COVID-19 outbreak.
We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
Elizabeth's deep sense of duty above all, earning her a permanent place in the hearts of the British people. In 2021, she mourned her greatest loss, the rock of her own life, her husband, Prince Philip, her closest confidant and advisor. Their marriage was an enduring partnership, a sentiment she shared on their 50th wedding anniversary.
All too often, I fear Prince Philip has had to listen to me speaking. But he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
73 years of marriage spent side by side, and at his funeral, the poignant images of the Queen, due to COVID protocols, seated alone. She will be remembered for a lifetime of unwavering service to her country. Perhaps Prince Charles put it best on the night of his mother's Diamond Jubilee.
As a nation, this is our opportunity to thank you and my father for always being there for us, for inspiring us with your selfless duty and service, and for making us proud to be British.
The Queen is dead. Long live the King.
And Terry Moran is joining us now from Washington, D.C. Terry, you lived, you worked in London, you covered the Queen extensively. Your thoughts on her passing today?
It's unimaginable, really, Amy, to think of the British throne without her on it. No one under the age of 70 really can remember any other monarch. And when I was there, I arrived as an American without much particular feeling one way or the other about Queen Elizabeth. But by the time I left almost 5 years later, I'd grown to deeply respect her, her sense of duty. She showed up every day. Her connection with her people is just beyond understanding, I think, for those of us who aren't British, and her connection with so many around the world. She was a central figure in the history of Britain. It's a different country. The world's a different place without her. And the last thing I'd have to say is you saw in her later years what I think people who know her best, knew her best, said was characteristic of her. She loved the job.
She certainly lived her life in service. Terry Moran, thank you for that.
And he called her a historical figure. She's an iconic figure. She's also a pop culture figure. She is just such a part of our world. And this is something that essentially most of the people who are getting this news and can hear our voices right now have never heard before in their lives. There is a king of England right now. there is a king. And what you're seeing here was a short time ago at Buckingham Palace. This is the official notice being put up, another notice being put, of course, at Balmoral where she died, but here at Buckingham Palace. And what they're putting up is essentially a notice to people letting them know that the Queen has passed. It's the same language that we saw a short time ago in the tweet that they sent out, that the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon, and the King will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. We have been watching pictures as I bring in our Lama Hassan, who's at Buckingham Palace right now. We have been watching these pictures, Lama, for a little while, sitting here for the past hour. It was rainy. We saw very few people out. We slowly start to see those crowds pick up. And give us an idea of the mood, the tone, and what you're seeing around Buckingham Palace right now.
Yeah, hey TJ, I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, but there is a very big crowd gathering outside the main gates of Buckingham Palace. We have been here all day today, and all day people have slowly been arriving, tourists coming up to us trying to find out the latest, wanting to know the latest on Her Majesty's health. Now, this is a very sad day. It's a sad day for the nation and for all the Commonwealth countries. You know, she's been such an integral part of our lives to millions of people around the world. She's simply been the Queen, one of the most famous, most recognizable women in the world. She's Queen, grandmother, great-grandmother. This truly feels like it is an end of an era. You can see the Union flag behind me. That's flying at half-mast, of course, signaling the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And moments ago, as you said, Buckingham Palace releasing a short statement saying that the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. This is a nation that is grieving, it is in grief, and TJ, it is palpable.
And you know, it was also palpable because we were there, Lama, for the Jubilee, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. That was just it's unbelievable to think that was just 3 months ago. And as we are able to zoom out and see this crowd continue to pick up at Buckingham Palace, that tone, and I know you remember it as well, Robach, and Lama, you stay with us here, but the tone there, to watch that tradition and to watch, look, there you do the polling, and there are different members of the royal family who have pretty bad polling numbers. She is one.
Yes.
Her polling number, she is such a popular monarch. And to see that celebration that we saw just a few months ago, and now just her health has been a concern, and the mobility issues, and we saw her have to skip some events there, but then she showed up at others. So she was still working and working hard at 96 years old, and to be at this moment now, it's something just 3 months later.
Right, and to see that crowd, and I'm sure in just the moments and hours to come, it's going to grow even larger as we watch people celebrate her, something that they had never seen before, that Great Britain had never seen before, a monarch making it to her 70th year, to that Platinum Jubilee, and so many people were concerned about her health, but that celebratory tone now, of course, one very different today, a somber tone there as people come to pay their respects to Queen Elizabeth II. And I know that we've got Victoria Murphy there right next to Lama Hassan, who's there, right there in Buckingham Palace. And you know, Victoria, you wrote a book about the Queen, the Life in Pictures. I want to get your reflections on this day and the mark and the impact that Queen Elizabeth II has left on her people.
I did, you're absolutely right. And writing that book, you know, really gave me a sense of just how much she has done in those 70 years. But I think crucially, how many people she has formed a connection with. She has traveled around the world, more than 100 countries, visited world leaders, but also been out in communities meeting the public. And that is why I think we are seeing so many people here today behind me, because people feel that they had a personal connection with her and that they knew her. Even if they'd never met her, people really felt that they understood her and she formed that connection. And you know what I think is really very poignant about this day, and the thing that has really struck me, is that, you know, she got her wish, which was to fulfill her duty right until the end. Just 2 days ago, she was fulfilling one of her most important constitutional roles, bringing in a new Prime Minister. We saw those photographs of her, photographs at the time that people felt were reassuring, but now we have this absolutely devastating news. But I think one thing we can take solace from is that she wanted to fulfill her responsibilities right up until the end, and that is what she got to do.
And if we're able to put that, the picture you're referencing, if we can get that back up with the Queen and the new Prime Minister Liz Truss, this meeting took place at Balmoral. It normally would have taken place at Buckingham Palace. So not necessarily maybe a surprise, as much as we've been talking about mobility issues. But to your point there, she always had this sense of duty. And she worked I mean, she's 96 now, and that's the picture we were referencing there, the meeting they were having. Again, normally would have taken place at Buckingham Palace, but Liz Truss made the journey there. And look, many have referenced that she looks frail in these pictures, but I mean, she's 96, we have seen it, but she still has that smile on her face. There's always something Roebuck about her, no matter what, that she still looks solid. She looks stern. She looks in control. She always looks like the Queen.
Well, I think it's to the point that we've heard so many people make who followed her incredible reign, is that she loved her job and she relished that duty. And Victoria, that's a huge part of the legacy she leaves behind, and hoping that she's leaving the monarchy in good hands by leading the way with the way she led her people.
100% exactly. I think she had a very keen sense of the public mood, what the public wanted from her. I think she always approached the role with a sense of what do people want to see from me and how can I fulfill that responsibility? And people really felt that she was there for them. And I think that's why throughout changing times, so many people continued to have such a huge amount of respect for her. When she brought that new Prime Minister in just 2 days ago at Balmoral, not a lot of surprise that the meeting took place at Balmoral, because we knew that she'd been struggling with mobility. But as you say, those pictures showing, you know, a real twinkle in her eye, and that was absolutely there right until the very end.
Oh,
that's a great way to put it, a twinkle.
And we saw it when she came out. Remember that when she came out? After that flyover there during the Jubilee, and that big smile, and yes, a twinkle in her eye.
But she stood there and she watched the flyover when the family joined her, but she stood there 20, 30 minutes. Yes, she was using her walking stick, fine, but she stood there and she had that big smile, and she was interacting with her great grandkids at the time. I can't remember which one was playing around with her there.
Little Louie. He was, yeah.
But she was enjoying the time. And look, anytime there's something that comes up about her health, people have concern, but this certainly felt different. To anybody who is joining us now, we got word just a short time ago officially that yes, Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96. This was after, at 7:30 Eastern Time, 12:30 in London, we got a previous notice, what some are calling unprecedented, an update on her health that was really concerning, where doctors said, and I quote, they were concerned about her health and that she was essentially being monitored by doctors.
And when we learned that her family was headed to Balmoral, that we knew that that was something significant indeed, and all of her children were there, and her grandchildren arrived as well. So she was surrounded by family, and she was in the home that she loved, her ancestral home. And Queen Elizabeth II, yes, we call her the second, but she was the queen of so many firsts. She's left her mark in so many unforgettable ways across the world, not just there in the UK. So let's take a look at the impact the Queen has had on many generations.
For 7 decades, she made and witnessed history as the head of the royal family. In 2015, she became the longest reigning monarch in British history, outpacing her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, and her 63 years of service on the throne. But Elizabeth II is queen of many other firsts. Her coronation ceremony in 1953, watched by a record 27 million people in the UK alone, was the first to be broadcast on television.
I here present unto you Queen Elizabeth, your undoubted queen.
Those famous royal walkabouts? Her Majesty started the tradition of greeting the public in 1970 during a tour in Sydney. The most traveled of any of her British predecessors, the Queen visited over 100 countries on behalf of the Crown.
The arrival of Queen Elizabeth of England to begin a state visit to West Germany,
including the first state visit to then West Germany in 1965. 21 years later, widely seen as one of her most historic tours, a critical act of diplomacy at the time, she became the first British monarch to visit China in 1986. And the first to address the U.S. Congress in 1991.
Force in the end is sterile. We have gone a better way. Our societies rest on mutual agreement, on contract, and on consensus.
Another historic first came in May of 2011, the first state visit to the Republic of Ireland by a British monarch in 100 years. It was the first time a reigning monarch traveled to the Emerald Isle since its separation from the United Kingdom.
That moment when she came off the aeroplane in Ireland, the Republic, and came down the steps dressed in St. Patrick's blue, and later on lowered her head at the memorial to those who had sought Republican success and who had fought for it. That was significant. And I think the Queen was trying to create an environment for an improvement in relations.
To all those who have suffered as a consequence of our troubled past, I extend my sincere thoughts and deep sympathy. With the benefit of historical hindsight, we can all see things which we would wish had been done differently, or not at all.
Queen Elizabeth II dead at the age of 96. We want to go back to Robert Jobson, who was there for us, who was one of our royal contributors. Robert, there is a King of England right now. Charles is king.
He is. He's immediately king. God save the king after the Queen is dead. And he was at her side along with Queen Consort Camilla, which is distinct from the Queen Regnant as the Queen was. And he is the king. He'll be flying down to London tomorrow. He'll be meeting up with the Privy Councillors to be sworn in as king. But he's automatically king as we talk now. That transition happens immediately. So there really is... it's a seamless change. And of course, he's got a very busy time ahead of him. He's going to have to, after being officially meeting the Privy Councillors, there'll be an audience with the Prime Minister, Liz Truss. He will then go, after doing other essentials, he'll then go on a tour of the United Kingdom, where he'll be going to the capitals of each of those countries. And then before coming back, of course, and dealing with issues of state ahead of the funeral. So this is a very busy time for the Prince, I nearly said it there, for the King, King Charles, and we'll have to wait and see how that develops. But I think that you'll find that this is the most prepared man for this role in history. He is a man who's dedicated to duty. We've seen him on the world stage as a statesman, leading the campaigns for climate change and really being a force for good. He effectively has been head of the Commonwealth and was actually in Rwanda recently representing Her Majesty. And we've sort of had a transitional, if you like, he's been a quasi-king for some time, particularly since the death of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. So, he's got a lot to deal with at the moment.
Yeah, and Robert, it's going to be fascinating because we're going to be watching tradition unfold there in Great Britain, and tradition that most people alive today have never witnessed because it's been 70 years that we've had Queen Elizabeth II on the throne. Talk a little bit about what we're going to be seeing, like I said, many of us for the very first time in our lives.
Well, I think we will see a difference in the way the tradition is done. I think we will see King address the nation at some stage in the next few hours. It may not be tonight. I think it may well be tomorrow, when he'll speak directly on the television, and I think that will be a very moving address. Because, of course, you've got to remember, most people in this country don't know anything other than having the Queen as their monarch. So it's a very moving and difficult time, but for him and the family. But of course, he has to carry that forward. We now will see something quite strange, really. What will happen is, because of the Queen being the Queen of Scotland too, she will be taken to Holyrood, which is in Edinburgh, the capital city in Scotland. She'll be laid there at Holyrood, her official residence there. She will then be taken to Cathedral. She will be taken to St Giles Cathedral. There'll be a service at the cathedral, and then she'll be taken on the train from Waverley Station down to London. This is part of a 10-day process that will be happening before we have the state funeral at the Abbey.
And yes, we're going to see this for a week and a half, a number of events, but also just a longer period of mourning. Before, I guess, yes, Charles is officially king at this moment, but he still has to go through a process, coronation. But that comes down the road when this process of this time of mourning out of respect will continue. And folks there on the right of your screen, we want to remind you what you are looking at there. Buckingham Palace, as the crowds continue to gather. After official notice was put up, we got official word after some concern, really, when we all woke up here, at least in the United States this morning, about the Queen's health. And yes, we have gotten word that she has passed away at the age of 96, passed away this afternoon, we're told, at Balmoral, her home, her ancestral home. I want to bring in now Andrew Morton, the royal biographer. Andrew, we appreciate you taking some time with us here now, and give me your reflections now on what we're seeing and the losing of this icon.
Yes, I think we're seeing a shifting in the tectonic plates of our society. I think there'll be questioning about the role of the monarchy, the role of Prince Charles. I think that this is going to be a seismic shift in British society. as what your previous contributor mentioned, everybody knows something about the Queen. Very few people know much about George VI, the Queen's mother, because they weren't around. The Queen has been a pivot point of certainty in an uncertain world.
And Andrew, talk a little bit about Prince Charles and now King Charles. We keep, I think I'm the second person to do that now. It's something we're going to have to get used to. But talk a little bit about what he's done, and he's had a lot of time to prepare for this role, where he is headed in terms of where he's going to take this monarchy.
Well, he's talked about a slimmed down monarchy. He's talked about a reformed monarchy. And he's very keen to put those ideas into play. And I remember way back in the 90s, he was rather hoping that the Queen might abdicate and give him a chance. But that's obviously not been the case. He is someone who has been forceful and forthright in his views on architecture, on organic farming, on climate change. He raised those issues, some of those issues with both President Trump and I think with Biden. So he has been a more political figure than the Queen, but he's also said that he's not going to pursue that kind of potentially divisive issues.
Well, we're going to ask you to stand by, Andrew, as we take a look back now, or at Britain's now new monarchy, where we now have a king. It's been 70 years, and certainly no one has waited longer for that role than the Queen's oldest son, of course, King Charles now. He's lived his whole life under a microscope, his every move watched closely, and now he is finally making that move to the throne. And David Muir has the latest on the newest British monarch.
The Prince of Wales is king after the longest royal apprenticeship in history.
He'll be the best prepared monarch we've ever had, having served so long sort of tutelage under his mother.
Even to him, she was Your Majesty in public. But watch her face on her 92nd birthday.
Your Majesty, Mummy.
In 1952, when Charles was just 3, his mother became queen. His destiny was laid out before him. It was a difficult childhood for Charles. As a young queen, his mother put duty and service above all else.
One of the things he talks about is this memory of his mother coming to kiss him goodnight on the nursery floor, wearing the imperial state crown.
His mother broke with tradition, as we saw dramatized on The Crown.
Prince Charles was the first heir to the throne to be sent to school as opposed to being instructed by private tutors. He was sent away to the same school, I gather, that Prince Philip also attended, and he didn't have the easiest time of it at first.
In his 30s, the prince told Barbara Walters he struggled with certain subjects.
But I think it's not too bad for people to know that the Prince of Wales can also fail in school, and they give him a failing grade.
Oh, yes. I failed my maths exam 3 times. I finally got it on the 4th attempt.
Prince of Wales became his title in 1969. But at the time, many knew him as a Playboy prince.
They tried to kind of create him as kind of a James Bond figure. He was referred to as Action Man, I think, in the 60s, as he flew planes or did helicopters or rode in jeeps or whatever he was doing.
In his early adulthood, he became a helicopter pilot, joined the Naval Air Squadron, and took command of a naval mine hunter.
And there were a long line of lovely young ladies who appeared to be potential spouses for him who did not make the final cut.
At 31, he proposed to his uncle's granddaughter, Amanda Knatchbull. She turned him down. He fell in love with Camilla Shand, but she married someone else while he was in the Navy. 30 seconds, I think. Finally, Lady Diana Spencer, the younger sister of a girl he had dated.
All of a sudden, this teacher, who was so young and so fresh, had that beautiful smile and an ingratiating manner, suddenly we discovered that she was the apple of his eye, and before we knew it, they got engaged.
I remember thinking what a very jolly and amusing and attractive 16-year-old she was. And, I mean, great fun, and bouncy and full of life and everything. And I don't know what you thought of me.
Pretty amazing.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Everybody remembered that interview where they were asked if they were in love, and he said yes, whatever love is. And that tells you, I think, a little bit about maybe his upbringing, whatever love is from a grown man who's just gotten engaged. It's not the note you want to go out and pick your informal china pattern with.
It's emerged that the Prince of Wales, the night before his wedding, really wasn't at all sure whether he was in love with Diana and was actually almost convinced that he wasn't.
On that day in July 1981, 750 million people all over the world tuned in.
So long as you both shall live.
I will.
It looked as though Cinderella had gotten her prince.
How are you enjoying married life? Highly recommend it.
I remember going to Australia with them. We were away for 6 weeks. And, I mean, that was the love tour. I mean, they were over each other like, you know, a rash. I mean, they used to look at each other like they wanted to rush off and rip the clothes off each other. They were that passionate. I mean, it was really, and very tactile, you know, touching.
A year later, an heir, and then a second son.
They're in very good form indeed, and bring us both an immense amount of happiness.
In this, their first interview, 1985 in Kensington Palace, music by William and Harry, and the royal couple still acting like newlyweds.
I suspect most husbands and wives find that they often have arguments.
But we don't.
No. But occasionally we do, because I mean, I'm, you know, I go on longer sometimes.
Yes, but I'm faster.
There we are.
The thing that the British public will always be grateful for is the way she raised her sons, and the love and the affection and the touching and the caring that she imbued them with. They're never going to say whatever love is. They know what love is.
But as we all know, the fairy tale faded, and within 5 years it was clear the marriage had crumbled. Later, dueling interviews revealing that Camilla was still in the picture. Their foreign trips were now portraits of an unhappy relationship.
She was in touch with her feelings. If she was mad at her spouse, there were going to be indications of that in the photographs, and there were.
The funeral procession is on the south side of the park.
With Diana's sudden and tragic death, just a year after their divorce, Charles was a single parent of 2 shattered boys.
They are coping extraordinarily well, but obviously Diana's loss and death has been an enormous loss as far as they're concerned.
As the years passed, Charles slowly introducing the other woman, Camilla, to the public.
Yes, it might have been an affair that rocked the monarchy, but it's endured and resulted in an incredibly happy marriage.
Through it all, Charles did hundreds of royal engagements every year, which increased the Queen in her 90s. By 2016, attending 530 engagements at home and abroad in just 1 year. Duchess Kate on dating Prince William and meeting her future father-in-law.
I was quite nervous about meeting William's father, but no, he's very, very welcoming and very friendly. So yeah, it couldn't have gone easier really for me.
We've got a new member of our weather team tonight.
Watch this visit to the BBC studios in Scotland, noting some weather over the Queen's favourite home, Balmoral.
The potential for a few flurries over Balmoral. Who the hell wrote this script? As the afternoon goes on.
As Charles now prepares to ascend the throne, what does he do with it? Will it be more striking to us when it's held by a man that we've seen grow up as opposed to Queen Elizabeth? What are the qualities that the British monarchy represents? That's the question that Charles is going to now have to answer.
This man is an absolute gem, and we should put our hands together in this country we've got him, because he is, to my mind, he is the next king, no doubt about it. And people are saying, oh yeah, but he won't make a great king. Wait and see.
This grandfather, who has spent 7 decades waiting in the wings, finally will wear the crown.
It's still incredible to think there is a king now, after all of us have seen our entire lives. We have all known, so many of us, the majority of us, only Queen Elizabeth II. We did show you images earlier. The Queen, just a couple of days ago on Tuesday, met with the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. That meeting usually happens at Buckingham Palace, but because, no surprise, the mobility issues, she actually went, there it is, and met with the Queen there at her home in Balmoral in Scotland. Liz Truss just stepped out of 10 Downing a short time ago and made comments. We want you to take a listen to those now.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her. She ascended the throne just after the Second World War. She championed the development of the Commonwealth from a small group of 7 countries to a family of 56 nations, spanning every continent of the world. We are now a modern, thriving, dynamic nation. Through thick and thin, Queen Elizabeth II provided us with the stability and the strength that we needed. She was the very spirit of Great Britain, and that spirit will endure. She has been our longest ever reigning monarch. It's an extraordinary achievement to have presided with such dignity and grace for 70 years. Her life of service stretched beyond most of our living memories. In return, she was loved and admired by the people in the United Kingdom and all around the world. She has been a personal inspiration to me and to many Britons. Her devotion to duty is an example to us all. Earlier this week, at 96, she remained determined to carry out her duties as she appointed me as her 15th Prime Minister. Throughout her life, she's visited more than 100 countries, and she has touched the lives of millions around the world. In the difficult days ahead, we will come together with our friends across the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth and the world to celebrate her extraordinary lifetime of service. It is a day of great loss, but Queen Elizabeth II leaves a great legacy. Today the crown passes, as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty King Charles III. With the King's family, we mourn the loss of his mother, and as we mourn, we must come together as a people to support him, to help him bear the awesome responsibility that he now carries for us all. We offer him our loyalty and devotion, just as his mother devoted so much to so many for so long. And with the passing of the second Elizabethan age, we usher in a new era in the magnificent history of our great country, exactly as Her Majesty would have wished, by saying the words, "God save the King."
And that was Prime Minister Liz Truss just a short while ago, mourning and announcing the loss of Queen Elizabeth II. As she put it, she was the 15th monarch and also the last monarch to be appointed to Prime Minister by Queen Elizabeth II. Certainly something that's of great significance to the world and certainly to Prime Minister Truss. Now, I want to bring in Elsa Anderson. She was the former press secretary to the Queen. And Elsa, we heard the Prime Minister say this was a huge shock to the nation, to the world, and yet you have a monarch, a queen who is 96 years old, and yet it was still shocking. She carried out her duties until the very end. Talk a little bit about your experience with the Queen and what motivated her and what she most wanted out of her reign.
I think her sense of duty, I'm astounded at the moment. I feel very emotional about the Queen's passing, and I think however old somebody is and however much you expect it, it is still incredibly upsetting, and it's amazing how many people who used to work with me and for her, who've been in touch now saying how devastated they are. So the outpouring of grief, and love for the Queen, I think, knows no bounds. We will not see another female sovereign, certainly in our lifetimes. We have King Charles now, we will have Prince William, we will have Prince George. So the embodiment of female power, that the Queen, I mean, she was an inspiration. She was a bleeding working mother, an inspiration for me as a working mother. I think the world will take time to come to terms with this. She was the nation's grandmother, she was the nation's great-grandmother, and I think it's going to take time to settle in, to actually to come to accept it. It certainly will for me.
Elsa, it's incredible, if I could stay with you here, to listen to you. And like you said, she's 96. There's been so much talk about her health issues, but still it comes as this type of shock. Look, she certainly here in the United States, I think absolutely she is admired, but she is the mother, the grandmother, the great-grandmother to Britain. And I was listening to the Prime Minister a short time ago, Liz Truss, used this word, called her the rock upon which Great Britain was built, and also said she is the spirit of Britain. And that came back to my mind as I listened to you almost try to make it through your answer, if you will, because you all are impacted. The world is going to mourn, but for you, what does spirit of Britain, what does that mean?
I think we've not known anything different. It's the continuity. It's when we've just gone through 2 years of a pandemic. We have economic downturn. We have a war with Russia and Ukraine. And she was our constant. She was our rock. She was the person we knew that would not let us down. And I do think that the world is just going to wake up to the fact that she's not there anymore. Not only was she our head of state, but she was a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. She was the Supreme Governor of the Church of England. She was the head of the armed forces. There were so many other facets to the Queen. And it's going to take time for us to realise that what we've been used to has gone. Has gone.
And Elsa, we talk about the Queen and her duty and her incredible passion to serve her people. And we see her as a world leader, and we see all that she's done, the rock, yes, of Great Britain, and certainly for so many around the world. But you knew her on a personal level. You were her press secretary. Talk about Elizabeth, the woman you knew and loved and served on a personal level. I'd love to hear your reflections and maybe some of your fondest memories of Queen Elizabeth II.
I think her kindness, I think her amazing ability, even after being on the throne for 70 years, she could still find something on a pretty, maybe fundamental engagement, something pretty standard. She will come back and she will stand there and say, did you hear that little boy say something about his teacher? Or did you hear what the professor said? Or, there was always something. There was always something that the Queen would find that was interesting and new, even after 70 years on the throne. So I think that was remarkable. Her sense of humour, her kindness. We would all get a gift at Christmas. She would always remember something. I remember the state visit by President and Mrs. Obama, and we were standing at a reception, and the Queen was walking towards me with President Obama, and she said, "Mr. President, I want to introduce you to my press secretary. Her husband is in the Navy." And I thought, my golly, I just couldn't believe it. The Queen took her time out to introduce the President of the United States to me, just one of her household. And that's just another element of extraordinary kindness and generosity that she kept on displaying.
Elsa, it was incredible to hear you say that. She's the person we knew that would not let us down. That's a great point to make with so much turmoil in the world and what we've seen certainly with this pandemic over the past 2-3+ years. She is that constant, and it's unbelievable to think that she is not going to be there anymore. As we take a shift, yes, there's a new monarch, but Elsa, what change could we possibly see now in Great Britain? How will culture, how will society there, how will the country start to look some kind of different because of who is now on the throne?
I think the Prince of Wales will be a remarkable king, a remarkable monarch. He's been a remarkable Prince of Wales. I think he's got his own ideas about shaping the monarchy, slimming it down. He's got his own interests, but I am incredibly confident for the future and what he will give to this country and to the nation and to the world. So I have got absolutely no doubts about that whatsoever.
I'm curious,
he
Elsa.
He had the greatest role model in his mother.
Exactly, and you had a front row seat to that. And if you would talk a little bit about, because obviously the Queen had the utmost faith in her son, but what was their relationship like? What did you see behind the scenes?
Well, I only worked for the Queen. I didn't work for the Prince of Wales, but certainly an incredibly warm, caring relationship between both of them. The Prince of Wales did more and more commitments and duties during the latter part of the Queen's reign. So a lot more of a team effort, sort of team monarchy, I suppose you could call it, which is charming to see. So you could see that warmth between both of them, and even at the Diamond Jubilee concert, when the Prince of Wales called the Queen "Your Majesty" and then "Mummy," which got a huge chuckle from the Queen and from the audience as a whole. So he's learnt from the best, and I know he will be an outstanding monarch to this country.
Oh my goodness, some of these stories. And again, you mentioned that there's a warmth, I guess, that people associate with her, and maybe not so often with him. We've seen him have his moments out there, and you described, Elsa, some of that. That's a great picture there.
Right there.
Right on time of those two. And he seemed like he was always by her side at so many of these events, and it's just almost, you just can't believe that there is a king now. All we have known is Elizabeth. And I think we have this is a live picture we are seeing again, Buckingham Palace. We've been watching this robot for the past couple of hours, it seems, sitting here now. Very few folks were out. The rain was coming down. I see a few umbrellas still, but then, as we were getting news, in fact, that she had passed, we saw those clouds break for just a moment, and the sun did start to shine on Buckingham Palace. And look, don't know if you're into symbols and things like that, but it was a nice moment, and there it is. This, and to the audience, it was one of the first things out of Robach's mouth when we saw the clouds kind of break and the sun come through. She said, "I wonder if there's going to be a rainbow."
I said, "I bet there's going to be a rainbow." And there it is. That is a beautiful sight, and something that I think a lot of people will take to heart as a symbol of what Queen Elizabeth II represented to her people, to the world. She was a ray of light. She was a symbol of hope and a symbol of stability, really, in a very unstable world. And so this is a very tough time, obviously, for so many people who loved her, who admired her, who looked to her for guidance. As we see there at Windsor Castle, not too far from Buckingham Palace there, outside of London, we see people paying their respects, laying flowers down, and I'm sure that is going to be, and there were going to be many around the world, makeshift memorials that will grow in large sizes over the coming days, with the next 10 days or so filled with much tradition that will go from Scotland to London, but people around the world, of course, paying their respects to the Queen, the only Queen for many of us that anyone has ever known. And yes, the world has changed a lot since Elizabeth became Queen. She has seen quite a bunch of tumult, and certainly has led us through so many difficult times over the past 70 years. She's had that front row seat for all of it. She met so many of the world's most iconic leaders, and even though many of them didn't exactly follow the rules.
There's a lot of rules when you're meeting the Queen, yes.
Yes, but she was never shaken, and I think that's what a lot of people are pointing to today as they reflect upon her. Here's ABC's David Muir with more.
My visit has given me the opportunity to reaffirm the ideals which we share and the affection that exists between our people.
During her reign, Queen Elizabeth II traveled on nearly 300 official state visits. She never had a passport. A queen doesn't need one. Even so, she was by far the most traveled monarch in history. The first reigning monarch to visit Australia, China, Russia, post-apartheid South Africa. After all, her reign began abroad on an official visit to Kenya as princess. There she learned of her father's death and returned home a queen.
And so it was sudden. And so she would later literally comment that she had not had the apprenticeship to become a queen that you might have expected that she was.
That year, Stalin was still the leader of the Soviet Union. Harry Truman was president.
Presidents come and go, but the one constant thing between the relationship between the UK and the US was the Queen.
She danced with Gerald Ford, watched a ball game with George H.W. Bush. She had high tea with the Clintons.
In every state visit, there's something that either goes wrong or doesn't quite go to plan, but that's invariably the thing that we all focus on.
When she rode horses with Ronald Reagan.
The Queen was out riding at Windsor, which he'd requested. And he sort of gave an impromptu press conference to the top of the horse. The Queen was so annoyed, she just trotted away.
When George W. Bush welcomed her in 2007.
You helped our nation celebrate its bicentennial in 1976.
He accidentally aged the Queen by 200 years.
She gave me a look that only a mother could give a child.
And in 2009, First Lady Michelle Obama put her arm around the Queen.
It seems the president's wife has made at least one very influential friend. Keep in touch, it'll be nice, said the Queen.
Now we've met.
But as many pointed out, the Queen, it seems, was the first to put her arm around the First Lady's waist.
You're not meant to touch the royal personage, because otherwise the Queen would be getting touched all the time. So there is a rule, don't touch the Queen.
It happened again during President Trump's visit, a pat on the back during a state dinner. But the Queen always put a good face on etiquette errors, like the time Nelson Mandela, long before he was an elected official, showed up at a South African state dinner, even though he wasn't invited.
He was there with his entourage, and the Queen said, well, I think he should join us, don't you? And this is before he was President Mandela.
They ended up, by many accounts, great friends. Nelson Mandela, it's been said, didn't call her Your Majesty, he called her Elizabeth. The Queen hosted her share of controversial state visits. The Shah of Iran, Vladimir Putin, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. And through it all, the Queen did not offer her personal opinions of those leaders.
Part of the royal job, if you like, is to put on the state visit, and it doesn't matter at all what the Queen thinks of the person.
People will be invited here because there's a need to have important discussions with those politicians, with those leaders.
President Trump's visit was greeted with protests in the streets.
Say it loud, say it clear!
During his visits here, he'd had Twitter wars with the Mayor of London, but in the presence of the Queen, he was somewhat docile. He almost seemed somewhat enamoured with her.
So even a character like Donald Trump coming to Britain was, I think, a little disarmed by this diminutive woman in her 90s.
The Queen was our soft power, and it will be very interesting to see how Prince Charles navigates that.
She was going to have the conversations. She was going to go to the countries that wanted to see her. You know, she was going to go on those trips. She was going to do it. Whether she enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, it was going to happen.
It's impossible to know the breadth of her influence, but she played on the world stage longer than anyone else. And perhaps her visitors were just as starstruck meeting the Queen as her subjects were.
She has always been a strong supporter of good relations between different cultures, between different groups, between different races and different religions. It was one of the things that I think her reign will be remembered for.
And those are some incredible moments to look back on. Again, with some, it's funny. There are so many rules when you need to follow the rules.
Yes, you do. But not everybody does.
Yeah, but some can get away with that, and some can't. And she seemed to actually reciprocate at times. And she, like you said, going into that piece, she was never shaken in all of those moments. We do know there is a king now of England, King Charles. He has chosen King Charles III. That is officially what he is going to be known as from this moment on. And just a short time ago, we did get a statement. It's the first time we're hearing from the son of Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, Prince Charles III putting out a statement saying, "The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be, he goes on to say, comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held. Again, that's from Prince Charles just a short time ago.
King Charles.
Oh.
See, you did it too.
How long is it going to take us? It's going to take us all a moment here. But yes, King Charles' statement, we're getting there. And again, we talk so much about the Queen and what she means to people, not just there in Great Britain, but and around the world. But you got to remember, this was a mom. Yeah. Somebody lost a mom, a grandmom, a great-grandma today.
That's right, and certainly her loss has been felt around the world. But as you mentioned, her family now, the beautiful thing was able to get there to Balmoral to be with her as she passed this afternoon. Of course, we received word 7:30 Eastern time here that her health was failing, and that was the first warning sign that perhaps something very significant and serious was happening. Then we heard word that members of the royal family were all headed there to Scotland, to Balmoral, and they were able to be with her by her side. And it was just around 6 p.m. local time there in London where we got the official word that Queen Elizabeth II had passed away peacefully. Now, we do have our Robert Jobson there, a royal editor of the London Evening Standard, and he has, of course, been following the Queen for many, many years. And Robert, I know we just spoke of this. You know, we're talking about the great loss the world is feeling, that people there in Great Britain are feeling, but certainly the man who is now king is not only taking on this monumental task, this role that he's been prepped for and been preparing for all his life, but he's also mourning his mother at the same time, Robert.
Oh, someone tell me what the question. I've got no...
It looks like Robert cannot hear us. He lost his audio, and we will try to check back in with Robert in just a bit. But as we watched just some beautiful moments where so many people there in London coming to pay their respects. This is at Windsor Castle, I believe, which is just outside of London. And of course, we're seeing some of those memorials, people paying their respects, growing in large quantities there at Buckingham Palace, too. You can see there. And so many people will continue to show up. They braved the rain, some of them, and now much better weather, but certainly people there just to witness history and to pay their respects to the woman who has been queen for 70 years. And
as we were talking a moment ago, as we were going to see those memorials continue to grow in many places, really around the world. But then just to see a little boy, he couldn't have been more than 5 years old, walk up there and put flowers down at that memorial. It's incredible to see. She has spanned really generations. This is the only queen that most people in the world have known, the Queen of Great Britain. And look, the statement we put out, and I think we have Jobson back, Robert Jobson, our contributor here. Robert, hope you can hear me now. We can hear you. But why was it? It seems like for a while, maybe even for years, we hear that the Queen can't make it to an event, and there's concern. During the Jubilee, she had to miss out on a couple of events, and there was always concern for her health. But tell me why it was such a big deal for so many when the statement came out earlier this morning that the Queen's doctors are concerned for her health and have recommended she remain under medical supervision. Some have even said that was unprecedented, and we knew that something was happening.
Well, absolutely. The word concern was the reason. The very use of the word concern has not been used before. The reality is that for me, it said everything because it showed the doctors were ready, prepared to put out that statement. The palace never does a running commentary on the health of the Queen. They would just say if she was going into hospital or not. So the word concern from doctors put everyone on alert, particularly people that have been following this for as long as I have over the last 30 years.
And Robert, before we lost your audio there, I had asked you about now King Charles III. He put out a statement talking about losing his mother. And as we all mourn the passing of the Queen and the world mourns the passing of the Queen, this is a man who's taking on a huge responsibility, and he's prepared for it obviously his entire life. But as he takes on the biggest role of his life, he's also mourning his mother at the very same time. Can you talk a little bit about their relationship and what he must be going through in these moments?
Well, it takes quite a man or a woman to do this. You know, at the moment you reach your destiny as becoming the monarch of a country, you know, you're dealing with also losing your parent, as he is as well. But he's announced that he will be known as King Charles III, and there was some speculation that he would honour his grandfather, become George VII, but it looks like that's now been confirmed. He will be flying down to London with his wife, the Queen Consort Camilla, and be sworn in by the Privy Councillors. But it's quite a moment now that he has to take on this level of responsibility straight away. He is the most well-prepared monarch in history. He's also the oldest monarch we've ever had. And so really we are in a period of transition in this country. And I'm sure the role of Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, and now the Duke of Cornwall as well, as he will be, will actually play a very important role in this transition to the next stage in this 21st century monarch. We've been so used to having just the Queen. I mean, she really is someone who's universally like the Queen of the world, if you like. But she's no longer with us, so now we have the King.
Well, Robert, you said he's the most well-prepared, maybe in history there. But what about popular? He has gone through scandal for decades in a lot of ways, and certainly I think you would argue he has done a lot for his public image over the last number of years. But is the public there certainly ready to embrace this king in with that same type, not the same type, but some degree of affection?
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of affection for the Prince of Wales. Certainly in recent years, he has supported the Queen admirably. He's been at her side when necessary. He's stepped up to the plate to help her and to represent her where possible. I mean, he's now, yes, he had a difficult and tumultuous marriage and divorce and the tragedy, of course, that happened to Diana that followed. But he's happily married now for the last, well, over 15, 20, 16 years, 17 years. So I do think that people have forgiven that. They'll look at him now, approaching his, he'll be, he's in his mid-70s, coming 73, 74. So, he's got a chance to sort of stamp his authority on his reign. He will make, I think, a slimmed-down monarchy. He'll make it more cost-effective, but it'll have its own way. I think he's a man, when I've spoken to him, and I've travelled around the world with him and written a book about him, he's somebody who believes wholeheartedly in leadership. He's somebody who I think is a great convener of people, and I think he'll make a great statesman, particularly at a time when the world needs a statesman when it comes to climate change and all the problems with sustaining our planet. So I think he'll be a very vocal king, and I think he'll be a very well-respected king.
Well, Robert, we appreciate your commentary. We're going to be checking back in with you. But in the meantime, we want to go to our Mary Bruce, because obviously the Queen has had relationships with leaders all around the world and with our president, indeed, President Biden. And he has made a statement on the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. So, Mary, go ahead and let us know what President Biden had to say.
Yeah, the President, Amy, has just released a paper statement remembering and paying tribute to the Queen. I want to read to you from part of this. He described her as more than a monarch, saying she defined an era, describing her as a steadying presence and a source of comfort and pride for generations of Britons. He says she always led with grace and unwavering commitment to duty and the incomparable power of her example. Biden going on to say she elevated the cause of liberty and fostered enduring bonds that helped strengthen the Commonwealth. Also described her as a stateswoman of unmatched dignity and constancy, which deepened the bedrock alliance between the UK and the US, noting that all told, she did meet with 14 American presidents. And the president also looking ahead, saying he looks forward to continuing a close relationship with the King and the Queen consort. President Biden concluding by saying he sends his deepest condolences to the royal family, saying that they are not only mourning their queen, but their dear mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Biden concluding by saying her legacy will loom large in the pages of British history and in the story of our world. I think it is worth noting that President Biden last met with the Queen last June. It was actually her first meeting with a world leader after the passing of her dear husband. And President Biden first met with her in the early 1980s. He was, of course, one of many, more than a dozen American presidents that she met with. And we are hearing from some of those other presidents as well. President Obama and Michelle Obama also putting out a statement saying that she was a reign defined by grace, elegance, and a tireless work ethic, defying the odds and expectations placed on women of her generation. The Obamas also noting that despite the many roles that she held, that she wasn't afraid of also showing a bit of humor, referencing, of course, that moment at the Olympics where she was willing to play along in that comic sketch. And we also are hearing from President Jimmy Carter offering his condolences, saying that her dignity, graciousness, and a sense of duty have been an inspiration, and we join the millions around the world in mourning a remarkable leader. Flags will be lowered here in the nation's capital. Nancy Pelosi announcing that earlier today. The Speaker also offering her condolences and noting what a remarkable example she was able to offer for women, young girls and women around the world. Words of high praise from one powerful woman here in the U.S. to another. And I think for so many, of course, as we have watched so many American presidents and leaders have such a close relationship with the Queen has always, for I think Americans, been such a symbol of the enduring relationship, of the remarkable close ties between the U.S. and the U.K. And that is something, a constancy that we have seen reflected in all of the statements that are now coming in.
Certainly is. Mary Bruce, we appreciate it. I love among the comments that former President Obama said about the Queen. He said, we were struck by her warmth, the way she put people at ease, and how she brought her considerable humor and charm to moments of great pomp and circumstance. She really did put people at ease, no matter who you were. So it's like that's another constant theme we're hearing about anyone who got to actually meet, know, and love Queen Elizabeth II.
That's a great point you make, because there's so much pomp and circumstance and formality to those events, and she was the one that usually broke the ice and made everybody know it's okay. And this incredible picture now that we're getting into the evening there in London, but Buckingham Palace, that crowd continues to grow and grow, and we can imagine it will be that way throughout the night. But we are watching, of course, these makeshift memorials, which will continue. We have our Victoria Murphy, who was there outside the palace now. Victoria, we have watched this crowd grow over the past couple of hours now. Give us a sense of maybe people you're talking to, the tone, the mood. We can only imagine there.
Absolutely. I mean, people have been asking us all day as we were here when that first announcement was made earlier today, you know, what's happening, what's going on. People from all over the world who were here and were very concerned. And now, of course, since that announcement was made, these crowds really gathering. And this sense, I think, of grief, because there is personal grief, because she was a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and we have that grief from her family, but also this public grief, which I think we are really going to see come into play over the next few days. I think there will be flowers laid outside Buckingham Palace. I doubt we'll even be able to see the floor by tomorrow morning. And I think, you know, scenes like this really show just how close so many people felt to her, and she had a place in so many people's hearts.
And Victoria, you mentioned you were expecting it to grow. I'm just curious what you've even seen just in the past hour or so. We've been watching the crowds form, but give us a sense of just what it feels like as you see people try to make their way up to that gate, and what you expect in the hours to come throughout the evening there in London.
I mean, it really is incredible. This is a moment that we have never seen before. Of course, we've never seen a death of a monarch. We haven't seen death of a monarch in 70 years, and we saw the crowds grow very, very quickly. I think another thing to mention is that the weather has been so unbelievably temperamental here in London today. We've had incredible downpours. The heavens were opening at times. We've had rainbows. We've had bright sunshine. We've had everything. And when you've got rain like that, you wouldn't normally see crowds outside Buckingham Palace. But today, people are sticking around. People want to be there. People just want to stand and kind of take in this moment and feel like they are here at this incredibly historical moment. We've seen the formal announcement put on an easel outside Buckingham Palace. Of course, in days gone by, that would be how people found things out, like births and deaths, and that would be how they announced things. Of course, now we see everyone knows instantly through the internet, through social media, the royal family even announcing the death on their own social media account straight away. But I think there's a sense that people are just coming down just to be here, just to feel like they are part of this and to be close physically to a building that is so representative of the Queen.
Victoria mentioned temperamental weather in London. That's not like London.
She said today, though.
Yeah.
That's probably not just a today thing.
We get what you were saying, Victoria, but you know, it is. It was kind of remarkable as we were watching, and you see the rain coming down, and even moods are coming down, and then all of a sudden the clouds split for a second. We saw just really a whole ray of sunshine come onto Buckingham Palace, and then that rainbow that we showed people a short time ago. It's just something still symbolic and beautiful about that. And look, there it is. That you know what? I know, folks. It's just the image, but this day, that image is awfully significant, or it feels symbolic and important. That that rainbow on this day. And who was it earlier that said she was always the constant. She was the one who always let us know and wouldn't let us down.
Yeah.
So there's still something uplifting and to celebrate on this day, but it's remarkable still. And I think we have Omid Scobie with us. We want to bring in our contributor here. And Omid, we were with you for the Jubilee 3 months ago there. And just give me your thoughts on how we went from what was the ultimate celebration of this Queen to just 3 months later, it's the ultimate heartbreak.
Yeah, well, as you remember at the time, it almost felt like during the Jubilee that we were sort of having a send-off for the Queen as well. It was obviously very much known at the time that her mobility issues were getting worse, and there were moments where we didn't see her throughout the Jubilee celebrations. And so those moments that she was in front of us, they felt even more special. But at the same time, I think it was very clear that they may have also been the last that we got to see her in such a public setting, in such a jubilant setting. And I think for many people in Britain today, those moments where we celebrated her life, her incredible 70 years on the throne, are still very much front of mind today. We're still celebrating them now, but in a much more somber way. And I think that's really going to be the tone over the days ahead. As difficult as this will be for the nation, the Queen was very much a unifying person. And I think her presence, even though she's no longer with us, just the memory of her and the stories that we'll be sharing, even now we're hearing from former aides, palace staff, about not how she was like in front of the world, but also behind palace walls as a mother, as an employee, as an employer. So these are the things that I think we'll be celebrating over the days ahead, and I hope that that positivity remains.
Yes. And Omid, it is, as we're watching pictures of her and that smile we talked earlier, we heard about the twinkle in her eye. We saw her love of her, not just her children and her grandchildren, but her great-grandchildren, talking with Prince Louis as the flyover took place. He was asking her questions, and there she was celebrating with her people this amazing milestone, this Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne, and she was talking to Louis throughout it. And also, we can't forget her love of corgis, too. You know, this was a woman who loved deeply, and her sense of duty has been talked about so much, but she also had such a big heart. And Omid, if you would, give us a sense of what the people of Great Britain will be doing over the next week and a half or so to honor her, to celebrate her, and to really honor the passing of the crown, a tradition that's been going on for thousands of years.
Well, this is a moment for almost all of us we've never experienced before. So I think it's going to be surreal, absolutely, as the days roll out. We're following protocol, of course, but this protocol is unknown to many. But of course, we have entered a period of national mourning already. And I think we'll see that not just reflected in the people across the country, but also in businesses. We'll see theatres and events postponed or cancelled. I think everyone is going to be very mindful of really what they're doing over the days ahead, making sure that we're very much keeping her memory alive. I think she's going to be very much discussed in households across the country. She's someone that's been on the throne for 70 years. She has been across the country many, many times, done thousands, tens of thousands of engagements. So there are many people in this country that have stories about the Queen and their interactions with the Queen to share. And I think we're going to be hearing that a lot from the people around us over the days ahead. I think we'll also be thinking about the family members that, of course, in Scotland today, who are not just there in their capacity as working members of the royal family, but also as a family, a normal family, that have lost someone very important, a central pillar in their lives. And as we begin to see more of that family over the days ahead, I think we'll not only be mourning the loss of the Queen, but also very much supporting those that she left behind.
You know, as we continue to watch these live pictures out of London, you were seeing the crowds go around Buckingham Palace a short time ago. And Omid made a point, Robach, a short time ago, that when you were there for the Jubilee, it was such a celebratory event. It was such impressive, that pomp and circumstance that only the British know how to do to a certain degree. But you were there, and Omid said you had a sense that this was some kind of a send-off. You know, this might not, this might be it, even though she came to some events and she was great. But he made that point that you took those moments in a little more and appreciated them more when you did see her. And we were there. We were right there doing live broadcasts. And the moment she came out on that balcony, And the crowd goes crazy. And we're sitting there as Americans still getting chills because when she steps out, there's still something always so unifying about her. And you're seeing and appreciating that maybe this is that kind of send-off that he was talking about. And I'm sorry to ask this on the air here, but if we can, you've been talking about little Louis, right?
Yes.
Prince Louis. If we can find that video that we have been referencing here, it might have been one of the, if not the highlight of the entire Jubilee celebration to see her interact with little Louis. All he knows, this is great grandma, all right? And he's up there having a good time, and it was just a wonderful, beautiful moment, Robach, that they talk about that warmth and her sense of humor and her being a family member first and the head of a family. That was a great display of it with her little great-grandson.
It certainly was, and it speaks to her passing the crown over to her son. You know, this is something she's been preparing herself for, the country for, and of course her oldest son for, now King Charles II, the third, King Charles III. And
it'll take us a minute.
Yes,
to get that
I know.
right.
We at least I didn't say prince. we got the king part right. Omid, talk a little bit about what King Charles has been doing over the past few years. As we've seen the Queen's health deteriorate, we know even at that Jubilee, as celebratory as it was, she had to scale back some of her activities. She had mobility issues. She wasn't able to do all the things she normally did. And we saw now King Charles and her grandsons, Prince William, take up some of those duties as they have been slowly doing over the past few years. But talk a little bit about King Charles II and where he's going to be taking the monarchy in the next several years.
Of course, this is a man that has been preparing for a role for longer than any heir that we have ever known. And he's not only had an incredible role model in front of him, but he's been able to watch the monarchy evolve and learn from that. And I think his eyes is very much focused on the future of the firm, ensuring that it moves with the times, that it modernizes. This is a man that has always been involved in progressive issues. He's very much part of, I think, culturally in the UK, intermingling with people of all different backgrounds and faiths and shown a real interest for every corner of the country. And I think that will really be felt as he steps into that role as King Charles III. But of course, we have seen him step up into this sort of quasi-king role in the months and years leading up to today. Of course, as the Queen's physical abilities have fallen, we've seen him really step into that role. Of course, recently with the opening of Parliament, that was a time that was not only incredibly important for him, but I think a sign to all of us that things were changing very rapidly. And so she leaves very big shoes to fill, but we have someone that's very keen to fill them. Charles idolized his mother, and I think that his reign, though it will be short, will be very much focused on keeping her legacy alive, but also establishing one for himself. And that makes it a very unique role as a king compared to anyone else we've seen before.
That is incredible to think. Oh, we appreciate you as always as we continue to watch these pictures. It's nighttime now in London. And it's been a couple hours now, several hours, really all day. There was, for most of the day, around lunchtime when there was a statement out about concern about the Queen's health. And now we got word just a short time ago that in fact Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96. Someone who was there with us, of course, Robach, during the Jubilee, that very celebratory time, is someone who knows her very well. We're talking about Alistair Bruce. Alistair, we are on the line with you here. We know you've known you know the royal family, you know the Queen in a way that most people have never had the privilege of getting to know. So let me just this is the first time we've had you here on the air with us after getting the news about her death. But let me get your initial thoughts and reflections and feelings on the passing of the Queen.
I'm so immensely proud of her life and what she achieved. She promised, age 21, that she would dedicate her whole life, be it long or short, to the service of the people who were part of what was then her father's empire. And her life was long, and she did just that. She served entirely right to the end. And those of us who knew quite what a summoning of courage it took for her to do some of the things in the latter stages of her life, to see her bolt upright and ready to receive her 15th head of government as Prime Minister, when Liz Truss walked into Balmoral, to see her bolt upright for that, was just a reminder of how she has dedicated herself to the service of the nation and put herself last throughout. And now we have a new king. And with the monarchy, it's an extraordinary thing. It transfers so immediately that for the new king, who with his brothers and sister are reflecting upon the loss of their mother, he also has now to go to her desk and find the boxes that she hadn't completed as sovereign and pick them up and get on with the business of being head of state. It's an extraordinary position for the new monarch to be in, to carry on this tradition of over 1,000 years. But the king couldn't have a better example than Elizabeth II.
And Alistair, we've heard so many people, although we knew the Queen was 96, that she was in declining health, she had mobility issues, but we still hear so many people today talk about how shocking it is that the Queen is no longer with us, that she passed there at her Balmoral estate, her ancestral home, earlier today. But talk a little bit why it does feel so shocking, even though, of course, intellectually we all knew it was inevitable, if not coming in the years to come. Talk a little bit about the shockwaves that her death has caused for so many people around the world.
Well, all of us know that every one of us will one day die. But I think the extraordinary thing about the Queen is that she reached well beyond the shores of her own realms and became known around the world as a figure of stability, continuity, and in the way that a much-loved grandparent is reassuring to us all by being around and being there. We all remember the loss of a much-loved grandparent or grandfather, and I think that the Queen has become the possession of so many people. And it is in that shock, whether people cared for the idea of monarchy or not, or whether they thought that things were right or wrong with Britain or with the world or with our history. They saw in this very simple and at times frail elderly lady a great humility and an absolutely clear and transparent sense of service. And I think that was quite endearing. And even people who were the most ardent critics of the institution still had profound respect for her. And in her death today, we lose someone who did illuminate some of the best of life to many people. And I think that, you know, she did span a period of comparative peace. And it's sad that her death comes at a time when the swords of war are rattling again, much as they did during her childhood, when her father was king and just before she became queen. So I think, in a way, we're all a little unsettled in the world. And when one of the deep keels of continuity that has been so deep in the water right through the terrible storms of time is lost, I think we do miss her passing. And I think that that is very understandable.
You know what, Alistair? One other thing to hear here. Look, you know this monarchy, you know this family, you know this Queen Elizabeth way, like I said earlier, the way no one does, and you can go through that history. You can tell us what it all means. Can you give me just for a moment, just personally, how are you feeling now on the passing of Queen Elizabeth II?
I'm just really proud of her. I will miss her immensely. She was always incredibly kind to me. She was a great friend of my mother's, and when the Queen was princess and living in Malta, her husband, Prince Philip, commanded the ship under the command of my grandfather. And I think as a result of that rather extraordinary set of circumstances, she has kept a bit of an eye out for what I've been up to. But I think that she's done that alongside being interested in the whole business of what's happened to each of the realms over which she was queen, the Commonwealth, which stretched everywhere, and she loved coming out to America. And the links between the United Kingdom and the United States are immense. And I remember her telling me the story of her father's embarrassment during the war when he had forgotten that he had invited the then Supreme Allied Commander, General Eisenhower, who went on to become your president, to come and have a look around the garden at Windsor Castle. And the young princess, now the Queen we've lost today, and her father were having tea in the garden at Windsor and heard voices, American voices coming. And the King suddenly remembered that he had given this permission to President Eisenhower. So he told all the King's family, 2 princesses and the Queen, to go and hide behind some hedges while Eisenhower went past. And I think that sort of gives an example. They didn't want to embarrass him. And I think it's a wonderful image. And I think that the Queen always had such a sense of humour. And if you did see the picture of her waiting for her last Prime Minister to come and to invite her to form a government, in the minutes before the Prime Minister came in, the photographer was just standing there, and the Queen had a little conversation with the photographer. And it's just the way she always put people at their ease, always smiling, and actually with quite an impish smile, always quite a girlish look at the world. And I think that was terribly endearing. It certainly was to me.
It's pretty remarkable to hear you talk about 96-year-old Queen Elizabeth II with a girlish smile, but you did, that is something that just translated, no matter what photo you were looking at, or if you got to see her in person, if you had the honor of doing that as well. That smile was so heartfelt and so real. And I love hearing the stories of her being a little girl, and just to think that she was in any way interacting with Eisenhower, you know, and then just a few days ago, yes, appointing Liz Truss, her 15th Prime Minister of the United Kingdom there. It's a remarkable story at what she's been able to see and witness, and then what she's been able to reflect back to all of us.
You know, it's incredible. Alistair, as we're at the top of the hour here, many of you may be joining us for the first time, but certainly if you have heard the news. In fact, the Queen Elizabeth II has passed away today. We got word that she passed this afternoon. This afternoon at her home, the Balmoral Palace in Scotland. We got the earlier word that, in fact, that her health had taken a decline. Again, some of the folks who've been watching, the royal watchers, know the palace doesn't put out a statement like that. They knew something was absolutely wrong when they said the doctors were concerned. But so many stories we've been hearing, so many of these live pictures we have been seeing. This crowd continues to grow. It will continue to grow overnight, as you can imagine. This is outside Buckingham Palace, but they did post the official word a short time ago that, in fact, yes, the Queen has passed 70 years on the throne, the only monarch most people in the world have ever known of Great Britain. And Roak, so many people know, have been, look, she's a part of pop culture, no doubt. And we got, in fact, a statement, all things from Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger saying, for my whole life, Her Majesty has always been there. In my childhood, I can recall watching her wedding highlights. This is Mick Jagger saying, in my childhood, I can recall watching her wedding highlights on TV. I remember her as a beautiful young lady, to the much beloved grandmother of the nation. My deepest sympathies are with the royal family. So we talk about her being a part of pop culture there. It's incredible, the celebrations that are going to, look, it's mourning, but this is going to be a celebration of a life unlike any we've ever seen. A life well lived, full of duty and love. So many people, of course, sending their love to the royal family, and of course paying their honors to Queen Elizabeth II. But as we talk about all that she did throughout the world for her monarchy, for her people, part of the beauty of Queen Elizabeth II was not just how she led her people, but how she lived her life and who she loved. And there is a great love story that we all have been able to witness and watch over the years. By her side had always been her husband, her beloved Prince Philip. They were married back in 1947. They've seen their fair share of triumph and tragedy, but it is, above all else, an incredible love story of more than 70 years. Take a look.
Queen Elizabeth's love life can be written in one line. She fell in love at age 13 with Prince Philip, royalty from Denmark and Greece, an 18-year-old cadet in the British Royal Navy with the war coming on.
They met several times during the war when she was still a teenager, and I think it's clear that she never had eyes for anyone else.
I think they must have had real attraction. It must have just been bam.
And over the course of the next few years, they exchanged letters, they wrote to each other regularly.
Her family was slightly alarmed, but much more alarmed were the court, who thought, penniless Greek prince, oh, No, thank you.
Today is Victory in Europe Day.
When the war was over, Elizabeth had her own battle to fight. Philip proposed and she accepted, but she hadn't consulted with her parents, the King and Queen. They were unconvinced. Philip seemed too outspoken, rough, had lots of German relatives, and that was difficult right after the war. Her father asked her to wait to see if her feelings changed.
It took about a year, but the Queen was determined, the future Queen. And she basically said to her father, look, I'm 21 now. This is the man I love. I'm devoted to him. I want to marry him.
She got her way and got her prince. Their wedding was close enough to wartime that she needed ration coupons to have her dress made. But no problem with the cake, 9 feet high, 4 tiers, decorated with monograms and coats of arms in sugar. And Philip took his place, slightly to one side of the throne.
Grandfather had a very successful career in the military or in the Navy. He gave it all up to do his job, to be there to support the Queen. It must have been quite difficult for him being in the sort of shadows and being the support.
As extraordinary as it was to have a woman in that position in the 1950s, it was almost unheard of for a man to give up his career for a woman and walk 2 steps behind.
As we saw in The Crown, Philip and Elizabeth, we imagine, had to resolve the peculiar nature of their relationship, particularly at a time when you would not assume a man would defer to a woman. But because she was the Queen and he was not the king, she was his ruler in addition to being his spouse.
Are you my wife or my queen?
I'm both.
I want to be married to my wife.
There's a famous quote by Prince Philip where when he met someone once on an engagement, this person said to him, oh, my wife is much more clever and important than I am. And Prince Philip replied, well, we have that problem in our household as well.
Known for his outspoken manner, Prince Philip told one biographer that the secret of their long-lasting marriage was he could make the Queen laugh. He wore a full uniform each year at the annual Trooping of the Color. That's him, and apparently could set her giggling with just one look.
Why do you love him? He makes me laugh. He makes me laugh. So if Prince Philip makes Queen Elizabeth laugh, rock on with your bad self.
By the way, if Philip was her true love, it's clear that she also lavished affection on her beloved corgis. They came into her life just about when Philip did. The original dog, Susan, was a gift for her 18th birthday, and Susan even came along on their honeymoon. After that, corgis were a part of the Queen's entourage for more than 7 decades. Through the years, 14 generations of descendants from Susan, plus others. If Philip wasn't there, some said that the Queen, a quieter person, would use those corgis as a conversation starter. It was clear she depended on her outspoken husband. In the days around their 50th wedding anniversary in 1997, each of them spoke.
The main lesson that we've learned is that tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage. It may not be quite so important when things are going well, but it is absolutely vital when things get difficult. And you can take it from me that the Queen has the quality of tolerance and abundance.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. And I and his whole family, and this and many other countries, owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim, or we shall ever know.
Prince Philip stopped most public appearances in 2017 at the age of 96. He died just weeks short of his 100th birthday. They had been married for 73 years, in love for even longer. The Queen had never reigned without the prince at her side.
It really was a remarkable love story to witness, and someone who probably got to witness a lot more up close and personal than any of us. Elsa Anderson, former press secretary to the Queen, she is joining us once again. And Elsa, I know that you were able to obviously serve your Queen, but also see her in a way that many of us didn't. If you would, talk about some of your reflections of that love story we're talking about between Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh my golly, they were the perfect team. I witnessed so many engagements where people would want to see the Queen, and there'd be barriers up, and Prince Philip would go and lift children over the barriers to introduce them to the Queen so they could give her bouquets. I mean, he was just the most incredible support to her through thick and thin. And there was no ego to him. He obviously had his own interests. You know, he was the most extraordinary naval officer. He could have gone all the way in the Royal Navy. He had an exemplary career during World War II, and yet, because of circumstances, he had to give that up, and he supported the Queen, but he forged his own path. You know, introducing the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, which was extraordinary, all the work he did with young people, with the environment, with buildings. I mean, he was a leader of his time, and I know how much the Queen admired him and looked at him for support.
And Elsa, I'm curious, upon Prince Philip's passing, what was that like for the Queen?
Oh my golly, but of course, and I'm sure your viewers would have seen during those iconic images during the funeral service. It was during the pandemic. There were only a very small amount of people allowed to go to the funeral service at St. George's Chapel at Windsor. So you had that incredibly distressing and sad image of Her Majesty the Queen in her facial mask, sitting on her own, mourning the death of her most beloved husband. And I challenge anyone who did not feel extraordinary sympathy and love for the Queen during that time. It was so hard.
Of so many images we have seen of her over the years, and even those, you know, the many images here, Elsa, we have been showing our viewers here over the past couple of hours now. She always had, what did our contributor say a short time, a girlish,
a girlish smile, yes.
Smile to her, and so many of the images she has this big smile on her face. You can't help but. You said you challenge anybody to not feel something. See, look at that picture. I also challenge anybody to see that image of her with the smile on her face and not also feel something. There's something about that smile. What was it? And each question we've asked you over the past couple of minutes here, Elsa, you start with, oh my golly, because it is. You can't help but.
Very English. I think the Queen's face and her smile is like a lighthouse beacon. You know, it just lights up her whole face. And when she's talking to you and she smiles at you, you think you are the most important person in the room, in the world. You just think she just had the most, golly, that's going to get somebody to get used to, isn't it? She had the most extraordinary ability to make you feel super special and the only person that matters. And that's a real gift. She had that gift.
And we certainly appreciate you sharing some of those really personal stories that you had with Queen Elizabeth II and sharing her with us. So we thank you very much, Elsa Anderson. We appreciate you.
And for those of us who may be just joining us, almost 3:15 on the East Coast here in the U.S., it was 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time when we first got word this morning that, in fact, that the Queen was in declining health. An official statement that many called unprecedented that the palace put out, saying the doctors were, in their words, concerned and that she was being monitored. Then hours later, which was just a few hours ago, we got the official word that, in fact, Queen Elizabeth II has passed away at the age of 96. Prince Charles, assuming the throne now, is going to be called King Charles III. We have been getting used to not calling him Prince. That I think we should be.
We've both done it a couple of times, but it is King Charles III.
The third, yes. But of course, the Queen has been a symbol of strength and British resolve. Her reign spanned 70 years, the longest in British history. Buckingham Palace revealing the Queen did die peacefully at Balmoral, her home in Scotland. Again, that statement this morning was really incredible. Again, all of our palace watchers, they use that word unprecedented because they usually don't put anything out like this. And with that type of specificity in terms of their concern, and the image here we showed so a short time of them putting that statement out.
Yes, and in the tradition, of course, that is the palace, this is how, way back when, you would get word of a birth or a death. And so in keeping with that tradition, you see there at Buckingham Palace, it also happened at Balmoral. At the gates, they put the official announcement of the Queen's passing at the age of 96, saying that she died there at her ancestral home at Balmoral Palace for everyone there to see. And so many people have gathered there at Buckingham Palace now, paying their respects to Queen Elizabeth. She certainly affected and impacted not just the people of her country, but around the world. We had President Biden saying that she was so much more than just a monarch, and she defined an era, and so many people would concur with that around the world. In fact, we have ABC's Terry Moran taking a look back at her extraordinary life.
She was simply, to millions around the world, the Queen. The most famous woman of her time, from her coronation in 1953 to the outpouring of affection on her Diamond Jubilee, marking 60 years on the throne. So much history, so many indelible moments. Decade after decade, from the Cold War to the computer age, what an extraordinary reign. And for all those years, through all that history, duty is what defined this remarkable woman. She was born in 1926, a little princess, Lilibet her family called her, who was never expected to become queen until her uncle, the Playboy King Edward VIII, abdicated the throne to marry an American divorcee, and her father then became King George VI. The young Elizabeth was suddenly next in line for the throne.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family.
During World War II, the princess did her duty. She was a driver and mechanic on the home front, and she fell in love in those years, a handsome prince, swashbuckling Navy Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten.
Take thee, Philip.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
They married in 1947. 5 years later, when King George died, Lilibet became Queen Elizabeth II. Her coronation was an international sensation. But the British Empire Elizabeth inherited was falling apart, all the colonies becoming independent nations. So she helped to create a new realm dubbed the British Commonwealth.
When we were young, it was very easy to take our grandmother for granted. She was just a grandmother to us. But I've actually really learned to sort of understand and accept the huge deal that she is around the world.
Elizabeth traveled the world, more than 250 overseas trips, showing how the British monarch could change with the times and shape them, even as she raised 4 children, the most famous working mum in the world.
She was a young woman in a man's world, carving her own way through life and through a job that she, like any of us, don't necessarily have all the preparations you'd like. I think she's done amazingly well.
Queen Elizabeth reigned through over a dozen American presidents and just as many British prime ministers. Her first was the formidable Winston Churchill, proving a savvy stateswoman and a constant leader on the world stage. The years brought their ups and downs. The wedding of Prince Charles and Diana seemed to be a highlight, and Elizabeth watched as her daughter-in-law captivated the world in the 1980s. But when that marriage collapsed so scandalously, many Britons began to doubt the relevancy of the monarchy itself. When Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris, Elizabeth stayed in Scotland with her family. As waves of grief rolled over Britain, the Queen was seen as unsympathetic, and public anger at the royal family reached a fever pitch. And then she returned and joined her people in mourning.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
As monarch, Elizabeth maintained tradition and yet moved just enough with the times.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Your Majesty. Who can forget her appearance alongside 007 Daniel Craig at the London Olympics? It was a rare moment of public fun from a woman who prized dignity, but her family knew a different side.
If you do ever have problems, you can share them with her and she will listen and she will try and help. But otherwise, she sort of lets you get on with your own life and carve your own path.
Perhaps one of Elizabeth's proudest moments, Prince William's marriage to Kate Middleton in 2011, a wedding that united the British people and breathed fresh life into the monarchy. 2 years later, the Queen would welcome the newest heir to the throne, Prince George, and later Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis.
She's a remarkably energetic and dedicated guiding force for her family. And I'm so glad that my children are having the chance to get to know the Queen.
In 2015, Elizabeth became the longest-serving monarch in British history, passing her great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. A long life, a long reign. She watched with pride as the next generation celebrated milestones, and she endured the disgrace of her son Andrew's public scandals that saw the Queen strip him of his military affiliations, royal patronages, and the title of His Royal Highness. Her reign, which was born out of her uncle's abdication, saw her grandson Prince Harry also step away from royal life.
The decision that I have made for my wife and I to step back is not one I made lightly. It was so many months of talks after so many years of challenges. And I know I haven't always gotten it right, but as far as this goes, there really was no other option.
One biographer called her Elizabeth the Steadfast, her strength guiding her people through the COVID-19 outbreak.
We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
Elizabeth's deep sense of duty above all, earning her a permanent place in the hearts of the British people. In 2021, she mourned her greatest loss, the rock of her own life, her husband, Prince Philip, her closest confidant and advisor. Their marriage was an enduring partnership, a sentiment she shared on their 50th wedding anniversary.
All too often, I fear Prince Philip has had to listen to me speaking. But he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
73 years of marriage spent side by side, and at his funeral, the poignant images of the Queen, due to COVID protocols, seated alone. She will be remembered for a lifetime of unwavering service to her country. Perhaps Prince Charles put it best on the night of his mother's Diamond Jubilee.
As a nation, this is our opportunity to thank you and my father for always being there for us, for inspiring us with your selfless duty and service, and for making us proud to be British.
The Queen is dead. Long live the King.
And Terry Moran joins us now. Terry, you were an American, moved over to live and work in London, and you had the honor and the privilege of covering the Queen. And curious about your reflections on the passing of this incredible monarch.
Really incredible, Amy. And I moved to London in 2013 without any particular feeling one way or the other about Queen Elizabeth. As an American, as somebody who hadn't really focused on it. By the time I left, I had grown truly to respect her and to understand Britain, her country, her people better because of her. She showed up to work every day in their service. And in some ways, her personality, the way she carried herself, the values that she lived and demonstrated every single day influenced the personality of people that live in that, of the British themselves. And it's been great listening to all the people with personal memories and a sense of personal connection to this monarch. And that was really her signature. She is a historic figure who operated through soft power, really. When she became queen, the British Empire was falling apart. And one of the things that made her one of the most important people of the 20th and 21st century was how she herself, in her role, managed that transition. There's that famous image of the young Queen Elizabeth dancing with Kwame Nkrumah, who is the first leader, the president of Ghana. That demonstrating that there would be a family of nations, no longer ruled by an empress or a monarch themselves, but together in a commonwealth. Her own role, the way that she carried herself on all of those trips around the world, helped define what that commonwealth was and is. And today, really, there's a question about what it can be without her. She was a remarkable woman. I am lucky to have covered some big events, Brexit and the Scottish independence referendum, where she never took a formal position, but where part of the debate was, what does it mean to our Queen that we might do this? People voted their own minds and hearts, but they knew that she, too, would be part of whatever they decided. And that influence is immeasurable, and it cannot be replaced.
Well, Terry, I hope you don't mind us saying you cover a lot of tough stories, a lot of breaking news. You're in front of the Supreme Court a lot of times. We don't often get an opportunity to get a smile out of you, but just to see you in that moment, reporting here, really, you talk about the impact. Everybody has a personal story or feel a personal connection, but when those words came out of your mouth, it was an honor to get a chance to cover her, and that smile comes over your face. I think to our audience and to a lot of folks will agree that just that smile on your face that you don't get to show us on TV often, man, says a lot.
She put a smile on people's face because of the way she was, and I am lucky to have been there. Thanks, DJ.
Well, that's great to see there. And again, because of the impact she had, Roke, on so many people, you could argue that all day, once we got that statement, it was lunchtime in London when that statement came out that the doctors were concerned. You could argue that all day there's been kind of a cloud over Buckingham Palace, over London. Until, because even the rain was coming down, but as we got word that she had passed, something happened at Buckingham Palace, and look, for a lot of folks, you might not think this is the biggest deal of the day, and it's not worth talking about, but there was something symbolic and beautiful that the clouds broke, and literally a ray of sunlight came over Buckingham Palace, and the first thing out of your mouth to me, as soon as I said the sun was shining,
out and it had been raining, I said, please tell me there's going to be a rainbow.
And there is your rainbow. Sure enough, you all, this is just an incredible image. Look, we always know storms will come and go, but there always is going to be a light at the end of their tunnel, or some hope that comes out of it. And yes, this is going to hurt for a lot of folks for a while that the Queen has passed. But she left that royal family, and people argue she's left Great Britain in a much better place than it has ever been.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just incredibly symbolic, and I think a lot of people look at that as something that she would have said on her passing. You know, after the rain, there's a rainbow. After the storm, there is sun. And so she meant that for so many people. She was hope, she was stability, she was something that people look to and look towards, and she was that ray of hope for so many people. And as she passes the crown literally over to her son, he is now King Charles II. I said it again, King Charles III.
We're gonna get it.
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it right. I promise. Eventually, third time's the charm, right? I will get it right. But it was a beautiful sight to see. And also back here at home, here in the United States, there was a bit of a tribute played to Queen Elizabeth II. The New York Stock Exchange there had a moment of silence. You can see there, this is a very rare occurrence here, the New York Stock Exchange, to have silence. It's usually very chaotic, it's very loud, but you can see there the men and women of the Stock Exchange paying their respects to Queen Elizabeth II on this day of her passing.
And we talk about paying respects, and so much has been talked about how she ruled and her personality and how warm she was. And we talked about this earlier, and many of you may remember, but thank you to our staff here in the control room. The moment you talked about, it had to, I really do believe for a lot of people, there he is. This was the moment during the Jubilee when the family came and joined her, and her little great-grandson, Louis, she was just chopping it up with her great-grand. This was really maybe the highlight of the Jubilee for me.
It was adorable. He was there, so excited, watching really an impressive flyover. I was kind of excited too, doing a similar thing, but he's right there with his great-grandma. And then you'd see him ask questions and she would answer them. And as she is being celebrated around the world to do something that no other British monarch did, which is to serve her country for 70 years, she was taking the time to interact there with her great-grandchild, Louis. So he did steal the show, but also she warmed our hearts by seeing her reaction to him as well.
That's what it was, because as we were going over, there was some concern for the Jubilee and all the events that had planned. Like this 96-year-old, we know she has mobility issues. Is she going to be able, that's a heck of a schedule for her to keep up, even though she kept a major schedule over the years. And then she came out there, and if you saw that image there, folks, of her there, she was smiling. It made you feel good that she's in good. She's 96, man, she looks good. And she stood there 20, 30 minutes on that balcony.
It's true.
In front of the world.
And she did it with her family by her side, her grandchildren by her side. And as we all talk about mourning the loss of such an incredible icon, it's important to remember that there is a family out there mourning the loss of their mother, their grandmother, their great-grandmother. So to help remember the Queen by those who knew her best, here are some of her royal grandchildren in their own words about what made their granny so special.
Imagine that when you went over the river and through the woods, this was the grandmother's house you went to, Buckingham Palace.
Thinking big about Granny's quite easy because she's this incredibly passionate lady who has sort of transcended every generation. And you know, we're very lucky that not only do we get to think about her as an incredible queen and an incredible leader, but also as an incredible grandmother.
For someone like me, growing up sort of with the Queen as my grandmother, you look back at history and go, you know, has she really done this? Is this really happening? I think the significance comes in the future when you look back and go, this was her reign and this is what happened and how impressive is it?
Despite all the pageantry and glitter, her grandchildren insist that behind palace walls, she was no different than any other grandmother. You can see it here on her 90th birthday, telling William to get his feet on the palace balcony. Great-grandson George called her Gan Gan.
We look up to her like any granddaughter would to their grandmother, with a little bit of added something.
I think it's always, when we're doing family time, we always have fun. There's sort of different dynamics in every family.
William and Harry served in Britain's military. They had to look at their grandmother in another way.
Because of my time in the service, the utmost of respect that I have, not just for as a grandmother. You know, she was my boss for 10 years, and I viewed her very much like that.
But after his military service was over, watch what happened when grandson Harry made a promo video for his charity, the Invictus Games for Wounded Warriors. He got the Obamas to play along and Granny.
Remember when you told us to bring it at the Invictus Games?
Careful what you wish for. Boom.
Prince Harry knew only one response could one-up the White House.
How did you approach your grandmother?
I didn't want to have to ask the Queen because I didn't want to, you know, back her into a corner. But when I showed her the video and I told her, she was like, right, what do we need to do? Let's do this.
Oh, really? Please.
Boom.
What goes on behind closed doors in anyone's life, I think, should be private. So she's cut that balance quite well.
There's little moments where we can be just us, very small family, just doing little things like playing cards or whatever we do. And she likes just having her time to do that because it's the time when we all can just kind of hang around together, and it's quite nice.
She taught her granddaughters a British card game called Patience.
Which is the most difficult game ever. And I don't have very much patience. So when we play, it's quite funny because she'll sit there for a good hour and a half and I'll sit opposite her and she'll win a fair few times and I'll just be like, we've grown up all our lives going to Balmoral and Sandringham for Christmas, and it's the most incredibly special time for us because we have that time just with her and our family as just ourselves, not with the whole world watching. In Balmoral, where we go in the summer, there are the most incredible wild raspberries all over her estate. So when we were little, we used to go with her and pick the raspberries, and then we used to have the jam at tea.
Just as the Queen supported them, they tried to be there for her.
When the Royal Yacht Britannia was decommissioned in 1997, she was incredibly happy travelling on Britannia. And it was a really emotional day for her to sort of be at the decommission ceremony. I think it was one of the very few times that she's sort of cried in public.
Princesses and princes may live in a different world, but like anyone else, they take their life lessons from their grandparents.
She set an incredible example to me, to others to follow. Her leadership, her duty, her sacrifice, her selflessness, her love of country, I think they really, really shine through.
Her determination, her duty, but also her sense of fun and her love of life. I think that's some things that I'd really like to take with me going forward.
She's taught me to always be true to yourself and to stand up and be strong.
I am who I am, this is what I am, this is what my opinions are, and this is what I believe in, but I'm not going to tell you any more than that. To her, duty and the way she's brought up, it's very, very important. She puts her own personal feelings and her own personal thoughts to one side and goes, what's for the greater good, what's for the country's good, and in some cases, what's for the world's good. And I think regardless of whether she was the Queen or not, I think everyone and anyone who's committed themselves to public life like this or has dedicated themselves to duty, I think they deserve a massive pat on the back and a recognition towards it. That example, if people took just a tiny bit of it away in their own lives, I think the world would be a better place.
Oh, lot of people have said that she did make the world a better place. It's our pleasure now to bring back Alistair Bruce, because this is a man who had so much opportunity to actually see the Queen, not just in her royal duties, but with her family members. And so Alistair's joining us by phone. And I would love for you to just reflect and tell us some stories about the Queen with her grandchildren, with her great-grandchildren. What kind of a granny was she? What did you see? What did you witness?
Well, you heard them say it. I think that they found her guidance wonderfully present. You see, she recognized that because she was Queen, her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren all had to face a very different kind of world from most people, because that world would be interested in them. And she'd known what that had been like for herself, and she was brilliant with encouraging them. It was her encouragement that I think was her great watchword with each of them. All of them, turned out to be the different people that all human beings do. But in each of them, she found a treasure, and she was eternally forgiving, always welcoming, and loved to see them succeed. Now, success can come in different ways, but whatever their success was, she always had to hold this line of being the monarch, holding to the traditions, maintaining the constitutional requirements. And yet, she knew that the next generation was imperative, because she had only become Queen because she was George VI's eldest child. And so she knew that that was part of how everything worked. But her kindness, her joy with them, the way she would just play with them, take them riding. She used to love taking the young ones riding. And I think it was always rather sad when any of her children or grandchildren showed a lack of interest in horses, because she adored them so much. But at the same time, she just was an encouragement.
Alistair, you talk about the encouragement and things that she did behind the scenes, but also that the example she set. What do you see in her kids and her grandkids as you watch them in their lives, their public lives, a lot of ways that you look at that and you go, yep, you got that from Grandma, whether that's how they go about their service or maybe even in some of their personalities?
Well, I thought that Prince William's comment was rather interesting, where he said that she'd tell you what she thought and how she saw things, but she'd leave the rest up to each of her grandchildren. And I think that was her skill. For her, she was brought up in a different time, a much more deferential upbringing entirely. And she knew that they were facing different pressures. And so I think that at the same time, when she was giving them that encouragement, she was always trying to make sure that they understood that there was a greater calling, that there was an expectation. This is not about celebrity. This is about being a servant. And the reason, when you say the word the Queen, there's only one you think about. There have been other queens in the world, but the Queen means Elizabeth II. And for the grandchildren of the Queen, it's quite something to have in your family. And it's quite something to carry that without it in any way becoming something against which, as a young person, you might want to trade or to benefit or to do better by yourself. Because the Queen was never about that. She never did anything for herself. But at the same time, the Queen understood that people are under so many different pressures now. And the world has changed. And all of it. You just saw her love and welcome to see them back. And literally, in the last few weeks, the Queen has had the majority of her family with her in Scotland. What a wonderful last few weeks she's had on Earth, surrounded by her family, the people who she absolutely loves, while still every day going to those red boxes and completing her role as head of state of many nations and head of the Commonwealth.
Alistair, it's interesting. You mentioned that the Queen was acutely aware that this role and the royal family was not about celebrity, and yet, as you say, the times changed. There was incredible public scrutiny. The press, just the constant glaring eye of everyone was on not just her, but on her children and on her grandchildren. How did you see her navigate that with them?
Well, I think that, again, quoting Prince William, she sort of told them how she saw the world and then had to encourage them to deal with it themselves. Because, she was not the right generation to provide the map, except that selflessness works jolly well in public life. If you put yourself last and people look at you and see that your own interests are the last thing that concern you in your public life, it's a jolly good template. And I think that's what Prince William was defining. And, everything moves on now. We have a new king. Prince William, who you call the Duke of Cambridge, is now the Duke of Cornwall and Rothesay and Cambridge. All the titles move on. And this is what the Queen ultimately has prepared her son and her grandson, and ultimately her great-grandson, Prince George, for. It all moves on a notch. And hopefully she will have done her best to encourage them all to deal with what was such a shock for her when she came to the throne on the 6th of February 1952. But what more could she do? She couldn't have done more.
Alistair, we certainly appreciate your insights into Queen Elizabeth II's life, who she was, not just in front of all of us, but behind the scenes, and you were privy to that. So thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. We want to turn now to our royal contributor, Imogen Lloyd-Webber. And Imogen, I know that you also have so much knowledge about the Queen and the royal family. And we're talking now, of course, we're honoring her life and celebrating what she gave to the world. But also part of what she gave to the world is this next generation of royals. What is that going to look like? How are things going to change? What is her legacy as it pertains to the family members who will step up into these different roles now since her passing?
That's a fascinating question. One of the reasons why Americans are so fascinated by the royal family is that they are a family, but they're also historically consequential. And over the past few years, the Queen has been preparing us for the post-Elizabethan age as her four children, her 8 grandchildren, and then there's a dozen great-grandchildren who've been have been stepping more onto the public stage. She stopped doing long-haul travel quite some time ago. Investitures have been being done by Prince William, by the Princess Royal, by King Charles III now. And then it's a slightly overcoming moment for me here, reporting on this. But the Queen was the most experienced diplomat in the world, but she was also determined to prepare us for that post-Elizabethan age.
Imogen, it's okay. If a lot of people are having, you're not the only one, right? To just take a moment. It's okay here with us to, because even though we've been talking about Imogen, her health for so long, this is still for a lot of people came as a shock. So can I ask you, what was it like for you today when you heard that, when you got that first statement that doctors were concerned, and then finally to get the news that in fact she has passed? Just what were those moments like for you?
We sort of knew this morning what was coming. There was a feeling very much in London when we were all covering the Jubilee that this would be the last happy event around the Queen. And she didn't do as many engagements as she would have liked over the Jubilee, so we knew. Today, Britain has lost, I have lost, this symbol of national unity, identity and pride that I have known my entire life and that the world has known for most their entire lives. The Queen is figurehead to 1/3 of the world, to 2.5 billion people. She's head of state to 15 countries. Now, of course, some of that may change. We don't know how the Commonwealth will look with King Charles III at the helm. The Queen, as I said, has done the best to prepare for everyone for the post-Elizabethan age. But it is a shock. And it will be a shock on some levels to the family. The family are going to have to deal with this loss in a very public way. And it's a traumatic moment. But the interesting thing about this traumatic moment is that we have been preparing for this for decades in the most minute detail. So unlike when Princess Diana died, which was a massive shock to the world, and they ended up using the Queen Mother's funeral plan. The Queen's funeral, what we're going to see over the next 10 days, has been planned to the letter. It's a very odd time, but I've lost today, the grandmother to the nation, and I know my granny, aged 99, almost 100. It matters to us Brits, and I think you'll see over the next few days just an outpouring of gratitude to her service.
I think so many people share that, and as Americans, we might not fully get it, but I think that we're hearing, and it's beautiful that you were able to so poignantly put it into words how you're feeling emotionally right now, to lose really what felt like a grandmother to so many people. She was the only monarch most people in Great Britain and around the world ever knew, and I think most people would argue there probably won't be anyone or anything like her. And as a woman, to see Queen Elizabeth II lead her country, and it's been pointed out that we're not going to see that again for some time when we see the succession, who's going to be stepping up next. As a woman, as a little girl, how did she shape you?
That's such a fascinating question. She's the longest serving Western leader in the world. I grew up in Britain with the Queen as my head of state and Margaret Thatcher as my Prime Minister. And the Queen, yet again, just recently this week, 2 days ago, another female Prime Minister, her 15th Prime Minister overall, her first being Winston Churchill. She invited her to form a government. So as a woman growing up in Britain, we've had this extraordinary figure to look up to. She always knew how to do her duty. She always knew what to say. During COVID, she gave an address to the nation as the Prime Minister at the time was busy being taken off to hospital with COVID. She calmed everybody down. We have lost that mother figure. Historically, I will say this, women tend to make better monarchs. When you think of the great monarchs, you think Queen Elizabeth I, you think Queen Victoria I, and you think Queen Elizabeth II. So it's going to be very interesting to see how King Charles III, he's the most well-prepared monarch in history. He's been waiting for this moment for 73 years, how he's going to cope. There is something about having that maternal figure, because, of course, the monarch is not a political figure, it's a constitutional monarchy. Everything is done in her name. She reigns but does not rule. It's going to be a very interesting and difficult transition.
Well, Imogen, we really, really appreciate what you had to say. It definitely struck some chords, I think, for a lot of people, and then to see your passion and to see your heartfelt words, to hear them, it was an important part of our coverage. So thank you for being with us, Imogen.
And Ahmed Scobie, another one of our royal contributors, I want to bring you in here. Now, can we pick up there on kind of what she's talking about? And right, nobody's going to argue that point, right, Ahmed, that women make better monarchs, okay? That is not going to be argued at all today and on this set. But with Prince Charles, oh, goodness gracious, King Charles III, King Charles III now. What do you, look, he has to lead the nation through a period of mourning here now. There's a lot of events planned. And again, they have this plan down to the T, as she was just saying. But what would you say are one of the first priorities he has to know he has in leading this nation now through this moment? What is up at the top of that list of things he must do? Maybe not just officially, but even maybe emotionally to help his nation through this.
I mean, I think the most important thing, and we'll see much of this over the next 12 days, is visibility from Charles. It'll be his job to guide the nation through this mourning process. And of course, his reign, we can't beat around the bush. It will be short. And I think one of the things that sits central to that reign is keeping the legacy of his mother alive. I think we'll get to see in his work how much he shapes and influenced and inspired him in the work that he does. And of course, he'll add his own twist to that too. But I think that her memory will stay alive very much throughout the years that he lives as King Charles III. And of course, it'll also be the grandchildren that also continue to keep their grandmother's legacy alive. Of course, we hear how the family are all gathered at Balmoral at the moment. That's a really poignant location for them to be, because the summers at Balmoral are the one time that the family, great-grandchildren, grandchildren, and the siblings can all get together and just be a normal family. And I think they're getting that moment today. Of course, we've heard after the announcement, Prince Harry arrived at Balmoral Castle to join the rest of his family. Of course, everyone racing up to Scotland at different times. And so I think right now they're getting that private moment before they all sort of step into their roles as working royals, or at least public figures, to then keep the Queen's legacy alive and aid and guide a struggling nation that have sort of lost their linchpin. The central anchor, the sort of fabric to our nation, is no longer with us. And I think that that's going to be the challenge for all of them over the days ahead.
Yes, and Elman, they have that private moment right now. But as you mentioned, they will be stepping back into the spotlight as all of us will then continue to honor and remember Queen Elizabeth II in very public, traditional venues for the next 10 days. Why is that so important? Why? Speak to the tradition a little bit. I know most of us in this world have not seen this because she's been on the throne for 70 years. So most people alive today don't even know what the next 10 days will look like. But talk a little bit about the importance of that tradition.
Well, absolutely. And some of that tradition is different now that the Queen has passed away in Scotland. Of course, we talk much about London Bridge and the operations surrounding that, but there's also Operation Unicorn, which is sort of an add-on to that. It means that some of the traditions that are typical to Scottish culture will also take place. We'll also see the Queen's body lay at rest at Holyrood House in Edinburgh, which wouldn't have been part of the plan or the operation should she have passed away here in England. But of course, we'll see some of those public moments begin tomorrow. The bells ringing at Westminster Abbey. We'll also see guns fired across the country. There'll be many of this sort of pomp and pageantry that we're used to with the royal family. But I think whereas over the years we've mostly seen it alongside royal weddings and jubilees, this is very much going to be with a somber feeling, and I think that's going to be quite surreal for many of us. Of course, we had a taste of it with Prince Philip's funeral, but that was one day. We have entered a very long period of mourning here in the UK and across the Commonwealth. I think it'll be really interesting to see how across the 36 countries that will be mourning the loss of the Queen today and over the days ahead, how culturally it's different everywhere. And of course, the Commonwealth meant so much to the Queen. It was central to her legacy. And so I think to see not just how people mourn her life in the UK, but across the Commonwealth would be really interesting and so important.
Interesting, important, but also in such contrast to what we saw just 3 months ago, the celebration. And many have pointed out here that Jubilee celebration, 70 years, that folks knew that might have been that was going to be the last hurrah or the last big celebratory event we were going to see for the Queen. I want to let folks know we are hearing from Pope Francis as well, put out a statement certainly sending his condolences and saying that he's saddened, but he used these two phrases, celebrating her for her unstinting service and also commending her noble soul, is the way he put it in the statement. That from Pope Francis. Our Will Reeve, of course, we've been keeping an eye on Buckingham Palace for the past couple of hours. Our Will Reeve is there. Will, what have the folks been saying? And kind of, you can imagine what the mood has been, but I guess the folks you have been able to talk to, what are you hearing from them?
Gloomy, TJ, that's the word I would use overall. Today has been at the extreme end of a stereotypical London day, just pouring rain all afternoon, much like it is right now. But right around the time of the announcement of the Queen's death, as afternoon turned into evening, the rain stopped, the blue skies came out, and a rainbow even appeared above Buckingham Palace. It's almost as if the scriptwriters were a little on the nose with that one. But the mood here has been quiet and reverential in a way. Folks I spoke to just minutes after the official announcement was made and the sign was put out in front of Buckingham Palace, some were surprised at how surprised and sad they were. I spoke to one young man named Henry. He was walking home from work and he said that he knew this was coming eventually, but he didn't know that he would be this sad because it marks the end of an era for Great Britain, and it's the only Queen that he or any really of the folks here today paying their respects have ever known. And he said that it's going to take a great psychological toll on the nation because Queen Elizabeth was the psychological center of this nation in so many ways. Other folks who were just passing through, visiting Buckingham Palace on vacation from America, from Canada, from France, all stopped, of course, to see everything that was going on, the flag lowered to half-mast. everyone sad, respectful. They were celebrating the life of a great woman who reigned longer than anyone's ever reigned, and folks stuck around even through this reign to see the spectacle of it all and to pay their respects. And even now, as we get into a late hour here in London, there are still many folks around. It was in the probably high 10,000s of people, and walking through Green Park just quietly, respectfully, but wanting to witness a somber day in not only British but in world history.
Well, it's understandable. Londoners know a little bit about rain, and they want to be there to pay respects to Queen Elizabeth. Thank you for that. I want to turn now to Robert Jobson. And Robert, as we're winding down our coverage here, I want to just have you quickly talk a little bit about what's next. What's next for Great Britain? What are we going to see there in your country?
Well, I have a different view to a lot of what the previous people have been saying. I think this is a moment to celebrate a life, not to mourn a life. I think she had 96 years of an amazing existence. But now that she's passed, the baton has passed to the Prince of Wales as he was, King Charles III. We'll be hearing from him tomorrow on television where he'll make an address to the nation. And I think people will rally around the new king. It's his time now. He will be down here with Queen Camilla, with the Privy Councillors where he's officially sworn in. And the whole mood will shift towards his kingship and what he will do. He's a great convener of people, is a great leader in my opinion, and I've met him and known him well, interviewed him, and I think that a lot of people will be surprised. I don't agree that he'll be looking to the legacy of Queen Elizabeth. I think he'll be looking for his reign and to do things that really matter in that reign, which is convening people to help sustain and maintain our planet. Big issues that really matter to him. I saw him quite recently and I said, are you still painting and doing those things that he enjoys? He says, I really don't have time to do that. He's so focused on what he's got to do ahead of him. And I think we're blessed to have him.
Yes, as many people have said, Robert Jobson, he has been the most trained person to take over this monarchy. He's had 73 years. He's followed in the footsteps and had, as many people point out, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, leaders and role models to ease him into this role that he is now assuming today as King Charles III. And that role model you talk about has been referred to here in our coverage as the spirit of Britain, the rock, the queen and servant. I feel like they have lost their identity. And someone made the point, yes, there have been queens around the world, but when you talk about this one, people say the queen. She's the queen. The queen. And I guess one of the most poignant, and I guess it's summed up best, one of our contributors said, this was the person we knew would not let us down through it all. And that is who the world and who that nation has lost today. Yes, and the world has lost an icon, but her legacy lives on through the children she loved, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. The monarchy will continue. They say, keep calm and carry on, right? That's what they say, and that's certainly the way she lived, and certainly the way she'd like to see things continue. So we want to return everyone to our regularly scheduled program. For some of you in the East, that is local news. We want to tell everyone David Muir will be back with the entire team for a special edition of World News Tonight. You can also tune in at 8 Eastern for a special report, followed by a 2-hour special edition of 2020, Queen Elizabeth II, A Royal Life. I'll let everyone know. I'm jumping in a car headed to the airport. I will see you tomorrow on Good Morning America from the United Kingdom. Scotland, to be specific, I believe. It's changed a couple of times, but we'll be continuing our coverage. Thank you all so much for spending some time with us here on this sad but celebratory and historic day.